No king has less power than him. Carl XVI Gustaf. And yet, he plays a major role. In Sweden, a country which is both truly democratic and at the same time has one of the oldest monarchies in the world, the government once wanted to abolish the royal family. But with this family, no chance. Sweden's crown. What is the secret behind their success? Over time, Carl Gustaf has continued his reign over Sweden under his motto, also living by it. Gender equality matters, of course. Whether a son or daughter is next in the line of succession, they follow the firstborn rule. Pretentiousness? Not a chance. Marriages with the lower classes has now become a tradition. Sweden's royal children are allowed to marry who they wish. Yes, it's probably good for them to be able to find someone who they want to live together with, to build a life together and work together. That also provides security. For me, it was the same, so it's completely natural for me, and the children are pretty grateful for this change. We live in a modern society.
Dankbar für diese Veränderung. Wir leben ja in einer modernen Gesellschaft.
Carl Gustaf has been the king since 1973. No other monarch in the 1,000-year history of the region can look back on a reign as long as this, in which everything was not always easy. Most people today respect the royals more now than earlier. They recognize that he has learned something and is more secure in his role. When he became 60, I spoke to him and I told him I thought he was calmly confident. He no longer feared standing up for what he thought. He can even crack a joke now, which he didn't dare to do before. For Carl Gustaf's 70th birthday in 2016, the Crown Princess gave a speech to her father.
Papa, you were only 27, 12 years younger than I am today, when you came to the throne in 1973. I can only imagine how it felt to carry the legacy of your grandfather. And what it means to be the head of state and represent the country nationally and internationally in every way required.
When he came to the throne, Carl Gustaf was a young bachelor, parentless and inexperienced. Much of Sweden knew not much more about their new king.
Do you think of our new king? Do you think he'll manage this so young? I think so. From what I hear, he's very good. He's going to be good. He straightened himself out. I hear he was a playboy before.
Private family videos show that the king knows how to enjoy his life. For politicians, this offered a real treat, a lightweight without authority. At the time, all parties wanted to abolish the monarchy. They could have done it, but they didn't dare because the population was against it. The vast majority of about 70 to 80% wanted to keep the monarchy. So they changed the monarchy, taking away the king's rights and privileges, so that the result was that we still have a king, but not really a monarchy. The constitutional change of 1974 sealed the new power structures. The king was made a symbol and supreme representative. His own opinion or even decisions were undesirable. A head of state for purely ceremonial purposes. The Prime Minister at the time, Olof Palme, viewed the young king skeptically. Palme said all the time that we were only a signature away from being a republic. He was just waiting for the right time to do it. But then someone from Germany came and changed everything. Silvia Sommerlath. In March 1976, the king presented her to the public as his fiancée. Do you speak Swedish? Please talk for us.
Sverige. Jag hoppas
This very handsome couple won everyone over. They fit in perfectly with our modern society. You could see that with their family, the monarchy could be modernized. The king chose the woman he loved, not just one that was in line with tradition.
Der König wählte die Frau, die liebte, und ich die der Tradition entsprach.
One that was in line with the tradition.
On June the 19th, 1976, Silvia Sommerlath became Queen of Sweden. Her humble origins, a trick card with a fairy tale twist. Professionals were hired to tame fans and the media.
I remember when I started at the palace in 1976. I was always told the media were welcome to follow the official duties, but the family also wanted their private life. I think that this philosophy has laid a basis to the popularity of the king and queen.
The public was allowed to take part in the family life of the Bernadotte family. Silvia saw herself as a working mother. This was new to the royal house. Her job? Queen. I was asked to inform the Queen about labour market policy. It's not the most funny thing to learn about, but she was very interested and asked me to come back. We had about 5 or 6 meetings on the issue, and she did the same thing for other subjects, and that earned her respect among the people. She played a role in modernising our Swedish society.
Und das verschaffte ihr Respekt bei den Menschen. Sie hat eine große Rolle in der Modernisierung unserer schwedischen Gesellschaft gespielt.
Played a role in modernizing our Swedish society.
Once before, a newcomer from the middle classes has ensured the modernisation of the monarchy. Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte, a Frenchman, the founder of today's Swedish dynasty. His career began in the French Revolution. As a soldier, he fought against the monarchy. The king and queen ended up at the guillotine. The will of the people took the place of the monarchy. His republican sentiments even led him to get a tattoo on his upper arm. Bernadotte came from a middle-class family from Pau. Made a name for himself, he was also somewhat of a womanizer. His nickname was Sergeant Belle Jambes, the sergeant with beautiful legs. This year was 1810. Sweden's heir to the throne died unexpectedly. There was the threat of an empty space on the Swedish throne. A successor for the former king had to be found, and fast. In the war in 1808 to 1809 against Russia, Sweden had lost Finland after 700 years of it belonging to them. So, of course, the Swedes wanted it back. But how? They needed a new king with a powerful military, who was the strongest man in the world at the time. Napoleon. On the lookout for a suitable favourite for Napoleon, the Swedish envoys also met the now highly decorated Marshal Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte. They presented him with a job advertisement. They were looking for a charismatic sovereign leader with new ideas for a kingdom in need of modernization. His appointment to the throne was ultimately a misunderstanding, because the Swedish thought he was a good friend of Napoleon's, but that wasn't the case. He was his greatest rival. Two renowned military men, two up-and-coming strong characters. Napoleon always felt superior, but Bernadotte showed that he was just as respectable a man, if not a better one. And then, it happened. In his new home, Bernadotte began searching his surroundings for an alliance against Napoleon. For the alliance, he needed partners. He considered Prussia, Austria, and above all, Russia. His greatest achievement was doing exactly the opposite of what people expected from him, namely, taking back Finland from the Russians, as he was a friend of the Tsar. A few weeks after his arrival in Stockholm in autumn 1810, he said to the Russian ambassador, "Inform the Tsar that I have no interest in Finland, that they should help me take Norway."
Dass mir helfen möge, Norwegen einzunehmen.
And that's how it happened. In 1815, Norway fell to Sweden with Russia's blessing, a triumph for Bernadotte. His statue was presented in front of the palace in Oslo. Now he has two crowns, as King Carl III Johan of Norway and Carl XVI of Sweden. He ruled over a considerable kingdom in the northern Europe. Napoleon's former warhorse brought peace to the Swedes and became the founder of neutral policy. In many ways, he set benchmarks because he changed Sweden radically in terms of foreign policy, culture, economics, in many aspects. And to this day, he still means a lot to the royal family and inspires them.
Und noch heute bedeutet der Königsfamilie viel. Inspiriert sie.
So it no longer mattered that during a medical examination it came to light, as the story goes, that Maxim had gotten a tattoo during the French Revolution which said, "Death to the King." It didn't detract from his popularity in Sweden.
Of course, we know that he didn't want the king dead, at least not in Sweden. He was a real revolutionary in his younger years, but not after he came to Sweden. There, he revolutionized the country in a different way, from war to peace. Then it began a new era in Sweden. But the legend is funny, even today when tattoos are so common.
The new Princess Sophia has finally made tattoos acceptable. She also does not come from aristocracy. The Bernadotte family tree has been part of the European aristocracy for a long time as somewhat of a flaw. Carl Johan, the first Bernadotte, was elected by the people, and that made him special. And it took almost 2 generations until the Bernadottes were fully recognized by other royal families. But over the years, they've become accepted amongst the royals with no problems.
Doch mit der Zeit haben die europäischen Royals sie akzeptiert.
Today, some other royal families would like to be as close to the citizens as the Bernadottes. This image has shaped the younger generation most of all. Modern monarchy. These are middle-class princesses, princes on paternity leave, and women who lead the way. In the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, Princess Sophia trained to be an assistant nurse in the hospital.
Princess Sophia is a doer. If she sees a problem or someone needs help, then she does what she does. She is the patron of this hospital, so she knew about the staff shortage. So she put on an apron and got on with it, just like the other staff.
A few days after starting work, the press got wind of it and sent a television team.
You can also see it as the perfect PR gag, but it wasn't meant that way. The public weren't meant to find out about it at all, but it was impossible to keep it a secret, and so it ended up in the press.
Whether it was calculated or not, royals have a wide reach. Private events are also of interest. The baptism of a grandchild of the King and Queen caused a craze amongst fans on Swedish television, but confusion among opponents to the monarchy.
There is a lack of understanding about the opponents of the monarchy. Some people simply love the royal family, especially the older generations. But the younger people also find it strange that there is a family in Sweden simply carrying on this position and leading a life like that with the taxpayers' money.
In 2019, Carl Gustaf decided that the only descendants of the next in line will be heirs to the throne, sending a signal to taxpayers. Only those with a role cost money.
Of course, it's very important for the royal family to keep justifying their position. They always have to show that they are doing something, and the king has to show he is putting the crown first. There is no excuse for being at home sick, for example. Since the pandemic, things have changed, of course, but beforehand, Victoria insisted that a royal appearance must not be postponed. People come to see you. They expect things from you.
Every year, on the 12th of March, visitors make a pilgrimage to the Palace of Stockholm. The Crown Princess is celebrating her naming day. Victoria the Victorious. She is popular in Sweden, even if the younger generation is critical of the monarchy as a form of government.
I must say, I respect her a lot. I think she is a really good person, and that she's doing a great job. It's not about her. It's the principle of having a head of state who is not elected. If she runs as a candidate, that would be great.
Daniel is part of Victoria's success story.
Daniel is really important for Victoria. He is her foundation. The two of them decided to put their family first, but not before the crown. So he's gladly standing behind Victoria and supporting her, letting her stand in the spotlight. Victoria in turn takes her responsibility as future queen very seriously. She wants to do her best in the role.
As a young girl, she did not feel comfortable in her own skin for years. The line of succession was changed for men, and Sweden was the first European country to lead the way with equal succession in 1980, making Victoria the only woman among Europe's heirs. A choice of partner also seemed to be a problem. Daniel was not considered to be suitable for her, but Victoria prevailed. In February 2009, she announced her engagement to Daniel Westling, a former fitness trainer. Finally, I remember that day as a relief. They had been longing for that day for a long time, and it finally came. It brought about a new era for Sweden. The princess was marrying a common man and staying on the throne. This had never happened before. It was the start of the story for a modern Sweden.
Das hat's noch nie gegeben. Das war der Auftakt für ein neues Kapitel in der modernen schwedischen Geschichte.
Of a new story of modern Sweden.
A modern couple with a modern distribution of roles. She has the top job. Daniel's diary is also fully packed, with topics like sport, health promotion, and entrepreneurship. As the future head of state, Victoria appears increasingly often in the spotlight. She uses her position to draw attention, especially to human rights, integration, and climate protection.
She had this passion for climate change and environmental protection. She has kind of inherited this from her father, who is king. You can recognize in the European royal families that the younger generation is more and more committed to political and social issues, which actually are a grey zone to them as royals. We will certainly see more of this in the future, I think.
In April 2017, an Islamist terrorist attacked Stockholm, driving a truck into a pedestrian zone. 5 people were killed. The king was abroad. The crown princess represented him at the scene. The journalists asked for a statement.
I feel great sadness and pain, but I also feel strength, because our society are coming together here with great strength. How are we doing that? Together.
By saying together, she shows she was on the right path and held the right position. It was authentic, not read from a piece of paper that some official had given her. It was real, from the heart. The crown is a unifying but apolitical force. The ice upon which the royal head of state moves is thin. The crown princess and king are regularly informed about political matters and legislative initiatives. In the beginning, the king was a bit surprised at his daughter's popularity. He wasn't prepared for it, but he quickly realized it was good. For him, the monarchy, and the family. They have a very good relationship, and when you talk to Victoria, she often talks about her father as a role model. She looks up to him. In terms of this, the monarchy crisis of 2010 to 11 did not change anything. A book about the king caused a stir when a story of a love affair from the 90s came to light. There were also mentions of alleged visits to the red light district, damaging the house's reputation. The family was put to the test.
Time tends to help people forget. In Sweden, this isn't a big deal anymore. But we do still talk about it sometimes. Naturally, it is something which will follow him for the rest of his life. He was brave enough to be open about it when he gave an interview back then and said that there were no secrets. It was a long time ago, and that he had discussed it with his wife. The crown princess once said how difficult it was for her to see her family to suffer. But in the end, it did some good, as it strengthened the solidarity of the family.
A closeness which they like to demonstrate. For the annual programme, The Year with the Royal Family, 3 generations are appearing in front of the camera. Their celebrated down-to-earthness is part of their success.
This is the dilemma for a royal family in a modern society. The people want to see both sides, the official glamorous side and the down-to-earth normal side. In the media, they are treated like celebrities, but they don't want to be perceived that way.
And that is something that the royalty does not want to be.
They want to be seen for their function as the country's first family. In difficult times too, COVID hit Sweden hard. It was terrible. All of the people who died, the sadness in many families, and the desperation. Many entrepreneurs and business owners had to close their businesses. It was a terrible year for us, for Sweden. And to think of all of those who died who were not able to say goodbye to their loved ones. The often quoted Swedish unique approach, no regulations, no bans, the goal being to create herd immunity. The balance sheet looks terrible, according to the king. It is probably the case that we simply failed. We still ended up with a large number of deaths to mourn, and that is terrible. The statement from the father of the state is critical of the approach. The country exceeded its competencies. Thousands of people died. At the time, it was around 12 or 13,000. That is terrible. And the king should be allowed to say that. But immediately, university professors and others started to complain that he was violating the constitution, and then staunch Republicans demanded that he should resign. That's absurd, because the majority of the population like the king saying what he thinks. Especially at events such as these, where the king speaks to the hearts of the citizens. Christmas 2004. The tsunami in Southeast Asia, a tragedy too for Sweden. Over 200,000 victims, including more than 500 Swedish people, were the sad result of this catastrophe. The small country was deeply affected. At a memorial service for the victims, the king addressed the nation. What can I say that could help you? Many children have lost their parents. I myself have been such a child as this. My papa died in a plane accident when I was very small. I know what it means to grow up without a father.
Ich weiß, was es bedeutet, ohne einen Vater aufzuwachsen.
He struck a feeling with the people, and they felt connected to him because they had similar experiences. I think that was very important for many people. I want to appeal to everyone who feels the same. Dare yourself to show your feelings. Dare yourself to help each other.
Traut euch, einander zu helfen.
It was a fantastic speech, and everyone was in agreement about that. I was there myself, and he found exactly the right tone. It touched everyone. It showed that a king has a role even without political power. The role of the king, father of the nation. The Swedish national holiday is a highlight in the royal calendar. Every year on June the 6th, Swedish people celebrate the day on which Gustav Vasa was appointed king in 1523. It is the birthday of the nation-state. Since 1397, Sweden was formed with Norway and Denmark in the Kalmar Union under the Danish rule. A century later, Sweden was striving for independence. It didn't really work. The Danes were too powerful and too rich. In those days, they were better educated and more civilized, and the Swedish nobility naturally wanted to claim power for themselves.
They wanted to have this power for themselves.
The noble Gustav Eriksson was part of a delegation supposed to negotiate with the King of Denmark in 1518. But instead of negotiating, the king had the men arrested. Gustav managed to escape. He was lucky and escaped the Stockholm bloodbath. The execution took many Swedish nobles at the request of the Danish king. Amongst the victims were also Gustav's father and other relatives. Gustav wanted to defend himself. After this bloodbath, he went to the province Dalarna, famous for its rebels and fighters, but he couldn't get them to fight against the Danes, so he quickly moved on to Norway.
Also zog weiter, so schnell konnte, nach Norwegen. To go all the speed he could to Norway.
When the people from Dalarna changed their minds, Gustav was already over the mountains. They sent 2 of their best skiers to catch up with him and to make him the leader of the uprising against the Danes. The skiers caught up with him shortly before the Norwegian border. They asked him to return, and then they went back to the sledge again. In the footsteps of fathers for future victories. Under this motto, the world-famous cross-country ski race takes place every year. A ski marathon across Dalarna to commemorate Gustav's return. His successor, King Carl, took power in 1977 for the first time. It's a sort of proof of manhood in Sweden. Every man should take part in the race at some point in their life. The stories say that they covered the entire distance by ski, but Gustav couldn't ski. He was a wealthy nobleman who went by horse. Under Gustav's leadership, Sweden could free themselves from the Danish dominance. On the 6th of June 1523, they voted him to be their king. The country was bankrupt, but Gustav knew how to help. The smart thing he did was he used the Catholic Church for his own benefit. He appointed the bishops and priests, and with these hand-picked priests, he had a mouthpiece in the community. He sent letters to the churches, and when the priests then gave their sermons, they would say, "Here is the word of God in the Bible," and then, "Here is the word of the king in the palace." He said it with the same tone as God, so people understood he was an important man. Gustav laid the foundation for the modern nation. The country began to reform the church and decreed that Sweden was hereditary monarchy. Ruling from then on would only be the descendants. Sweden also gained importance in foreign policy. Under his grandson, the country became a great power in the 30 Years' War. Gustav II Adolf, the Midnight Lion, as his contemporaries knew him. He was a lion because he was incredibly capable. He created a completely new type of warfare with fast-moving units. which could be pulled by 2 horses or 4 men. With these fast mobile troops, they went to Germany. Within a year, they had taken 80 German towns. They reached down to Munich. He was so successful that people would have been in favor of making him Kaiser.
Sie kamen bis München. War so erfolgreich, Protestanten hätten ihn sogar gern als Kaiser gesehen.
In 1632, Gustav II Adolf fell in the Battle of Lützen. His daughter, Christina, was still a child when she succeeded her father to the throne. For 21 years, she was the ruler of the most powerful nation in Europe. But at the age of 27, she gave up. Her story provided material for the screen. In the most famous film adaptation, Greta Garbo plays the eccentric queen. It is the story of a woman who realized her potential and had no interest in the throne. She also did not want to marry. She abdicated and left Sweden. Well, it's too much to say that it's a shock today, but she was never forgiven for the abdication, especially because she was the daughter of the Protestant king who defended Protestant Europe during the 30 Years' War. Converted to Roman Catholicism and moved to Rome, she was considered a traitor in many ways.
Zum römisch-katholischen Glauben konvertierte und nach Rom zog. Sie galt in vielerlei Hinsicht als Verräter. In many ways.
Eine Verräterin.
A traitor who made history and amazed generations.
Zum Staunen bringt.
When I talked to Victoria about Christina once, she said, "Wow, what a woman, and so brave." She said she wouldn't even have had the courage to say no to the compulsory Sunday dinner with the family. She was downright impressed by Christina.
She was very impressed by Christina.
4 centuries after Christina, and with Victoria, a woman will take the throne in Sweden once again. But unlike 400 years ago, no surprises are expected with Victoria. She is known to be reliable, hardworking, and well prepared for office. We call it the Kingdom of Sweden, but factually it will be the Queendom one day. First with Victoria, and then with Estelle. It's a good thing. Crown Princess Victoria has been preparing for this her whole life and is really a smart, very intelligent woman. And I think that people can feel this. She wasn't just born to be queen, but she actually wants to do a good job, so to speak. A job with a 1,000-year tradition, and yet with modern-day justification for Sweden in the 21st century. At the foot of the gigantic oak statue of Gustav Vasa, Victoria remembered family tradition on her father's birthday.
Of course, this evening I would like to build on how our family spans generations, how our responsibility as a royal family was inherited, and how you, as family's father and as regent, have continued this legacy. Your motto for Sweden and your attitude shows everything about your work and the legacy that you have managed. You can say that they use this motto for Sweden in everything that they do. Every day, week, month, year. The topics and organizations they support are important, and the king has also modernized the royal family. It runs like a small business. They have opened up the castle. People are able to visit exhibitions and see what the monarchy actually is.
Really show what the monarchy is.
The monarchy in Sweden. They present themselves as traditionally rooted and fit for the future. The majority of the population are in favor of them continuing. In the history of Sweden, no dynasty has stayed longer on the throne as the Bernadottes.
In der Geschichte Schwedens hielt sich keine Dynastie länger auf dem Thron als die Bernadottes.
I think that the secret behind his royal family is that they are always close to the people. They have found ways to accept political changes and social changes, and to be part of that development. Not necessarily at the forefront, but still there. And that has made them very popular. In addition, Swedish people like to have a little colour in their social life, and the royal family lends colour to the country in a way that politicians don't always do.
Dass die Schweden gerne ein wenig Farbe im gesellschaftlichen Leben haben. Und die königliche Familie verleiht dem Land Farbe in einer Weise, die es Politiker nicht unbedingt tun.
Sweden's love for their king increases with his age and with the prospect of his heirs. The popularity of the monarchy clearly lies in the Bernadottes. The Bernadottes are a royal family who know how to move with the times. That is the secret of Sweden's crown.